The Star Tree, written by Jeffrey Blake Palmer. One night, over the peaceful town of Cityville, something very magical happened. Something incredibly wondrous happened. While the people of Cityville were sound asleep, a shining shooting star soared straight across the sky and landed smack dab in the center of Town Park. No one saw it. No one heard it. Everyone just kept on dreaming. The next day, when the folks of Cityville were out and about, nobody noticed the small hole made by the shining shooting star. In fact, weeks went by, and it seemed as if the fallen star might be forgotten forever. But in time, a tiny sprout, no bigger than a pig's tail, popped up from the ground precisely where the shining shooting star had landed. And before anyone had realized, the tiny sprout had grown into a very strange and beautiful tree. The people of Cityville finally took notice. "Who planted it?" they asked. "How did it get here?" others wondered. But no one could be certain. "We should just enjoy it," someone suggested. With that, the people of Cityville stopped worrying about who planted the tree or where it came from, and they started to enjoy it in every way possible. The strange and beautiful tree quickly became a part of their lives and made a wonderful addition to Town Park. Then, one night, something happened. Something incredibly fantastic happened. Long after the folks of Cityville had gone to bed, a brilliant glare shone onto their windows, a light so bright everyone leapt out of bed. "The park's on fire," someone shouted. "It's a UFO," another blared. The tree, it's the tree." The entire town rushed out of their homes and ran to the park. But they did not find a fire, and they weren't greeted by a UFO. Just the same, what they saw was unimaginable. "Look!" a child pointed at the branch. Right before their sleepy eyes, teeny flowers, shaped like tiny stars, began to blossom. And they were glowing. Everyone huddled around the tree and stared into the warm, magical light. After that unbelievable night, things weren't the same for the sleepy town of Cityville. Visitors traveled from all over to see the glowing tree with the star-shaped flowers. Does it have a name?" tourists wanted to know. "Just guess what it is," the townspeople urged. "The Star Tree?" someone offered. "Exactly. We call it the Star Tree." Everyone cheered and celebrated as if it were a birthday party, and in many ways it was. It seemed as if the Star Tree would never stop shining and the visitors would never stop arriving. In fact, the Star Tree became so popular it was named the official tree of Cityville. Because the tree was so unique and so exquisite, some visitors wanted a souvenir of their trip. But the people of Cityville forbade such behavior and made a rule not to pick the flowers in order to protect the strange and beautiful tree. Although this was a good rule to follow, some of the townspeople weren't so keen on the idea. Nonetheless, it was good for the tree, and therefore it was good for the town. As each season turned into the next, and the excitement of the Star Tree cooled down, one by one, night after night, the glowing star flowers began to vanish. "Who will notice if I take just one?" they justified. "Besides, it will grow back." Or so they thought. Every time someone picked a glowing star flower, it crumbled into dust and faded away. "What's wrong with the star tree?" someone asked. "Why is it so dim?" another wondered. "Where have all the flowers gone?" It didn't take long before the bark wasn't glimmering, the leaves weren't shimmering, and there were no more star flowers on the branches to glow. Then, just as mysteriously as it grew in the center of Town Park, the star tree faded away and disappeared for good. The people of Cityville called for an emergency meeting. Everyone was upset, and no one was saying much of anything until someone stepped forward. "Somebody broke the rule and picked all of the star flowers. Who was it?" "You were picking the star flowers. I know it," they shouted. "I was not. It was you," people cried. "I saw both of you breaking the rule. How could anyone do such a thing?" What started as a calm discussion had turned into an uproarious argument. Everyone had broken the rule and picked flowers, but not one citizen of Cityville would admit it. They bickered, they blamed, and collapsed in their chairs. It was me. The crowd turned to find a small child in the back of the room. "I did it, and I'm sorry. I was the one who took a flower. I found one on the ground and put it in my pocket. See?" A glare emanated from the child's cupped hands, blasting light around the room and onto the circle of awestruck faces. The child was holding the last star flower, and it was still glowing. With everyone's help, the child carefully carried the last glowing star flower to the center of Town Park and gently placed it into the empty hole where the star tree once grew. The townspeople hoped and prayed and made a wish. The folks of Cityville were so concerned for the last star flower that each resident cared for it in some way. The children even took turns reading its stories. This, they believed, was sure to make the flower grow. And slowly, ever so slowly, their hopes were realized, their prayers were answered, and their wishes came true. The star tree grew once again. Only this time, the people of Cityville knew one thing was certain. The star tree would glow forever.